Then, irasya natin bakit iyon ang tamang sagot. So, I guess let's start. First question. During a complex homicide investigation, detectives have already secured the crime scene, conducted preliminary investigation, and are now primarily focused on securing communication records, subpoenaing financial documents, and interviewing secondary associates under standard investigation protocols, which phase is actively being executed. Is it Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, or Delta? Guys, if you're going to look at the question or the scenario, pansinin nyo meron nakalagay dito, have already. Nakalagay dyan guys, have already. Ibig sabihin, natapos na nila yun. O, diba? Tsaka kayo nagbago ng sagot. Kasi nga, sagot kayo ng sagot. Sabi dito, so they have already secured the crime scene, conducted preliminary. So after that phase, ano yung susunod? So definitely the answer for this is Bravo. That is the follow-up phase. So dito po sa criminal detection and investigation, so meron po tayong tinatawag na chronological phases. The very first phase, of course, is the initial phase na kung saan yun po ang ginagawa on scene, okay, as a response and at the same time to secure yung different evidence or pieces of evidence that can be found at the crime scene. So ngayon, kapag na-ensure na yung scene ay safe, na-ensure na yung scene ay na-i-process na, so yung investigation po, papasok na po siya ng follow-up phase. And as we can see dito sa scenario, so dyan na pwedeng pumasok yung ah, tinatawag natin na formal or the legal prosecution wherein makikita natin diyan nag-examine na ng communication logs, the financial account tracing, or even the subpoenaing ng documents, and even the interviewing ng mga witnesses or eyewitnesses doon sa scene to build yung much more comprehensive na pieces of evidence. And if we are talking about the hearing or trial and hearing, so doon po papasok si judicial phase na kung saan si prosecutor ay kailangan na mag-prepare ng information and then doon na po mag-determine or doon na po i-examine ng judge whether if the person is guilty or not guilty. And then the preliminary phase, so hindi po yung kasama as the phase of the criminal detection and investigation. Yan po ay more on sa trabaho ni prosecutor. So once again, the answer for this ay follow-up phase. Second question. Search warrant was issued on October 1st for warehouse suspected of harboring smuggled goods. Due to logistical delays, the raiding team executed the warrant on October 12th. Okay, based on the rules of court, what is the legal status of the seized evidence? Is it admissible pa rin? Sabi dyan, because any delays in returning warrants can be fully justified to the judge. Or is it inadmissible because search warrant remains legally valid for a strict period of 10 days? Charlie, admissible because the execution period may be automatically extended up to 15 days. Or Delta, inadmissible because a search warrant must be fully executed within 48 hours only. So what is your answer? So pwede ko makita, is it a heart emoji, a like, or the popper, or a clapping hands? Okay, so almost all of you naman ay nagsagot ng bravo, which is the correct answer. Tama po kayo doon. Kasi alam natin under the Rule 126, please take note of that. Under Rule 126, Section 10, hindi ako makapagsulat. Ayaw. So take note na lang natin. Rule 126, Section 10 ng atin pong Rules of Court. So ang search warrant po ay granted strictly. So meron lang po siyang tinatawag na lifespan. of exactly 10 days from the date of issuance. Huwag po nating kakalimutan, 10 days, it is valid for 10 days from the date of its issuance. Tandaan po natin, ang reason behind this is, ang probable cause po kasi is very time sensitive. Kung yung suspect present doon sa building nung day 1, sa tingin mo ba wala siyang magagalaw, wala siyang made-destroy, or wala siyang maitatapon, maitatago ng mga bagay. So kaya very time sensitive po ang search warrant. Kaya kung sakali na ang sistema hindi kaya na ma-execute, okay, yung search warrant within 10 days, so meron naman pong binibigay po dyan na kailangang sundin si searching officer. Kailangan niyang bumalik doon sa judge or doon sa issuing court, and then magkaroon siya ng reason. So doon siya magbibigay ng justifiable reason behind kung bakit hindi niya kayang i-execute within 10 days. Now, kung gano'n ang mangyayari, si judge dide-determine niya, personal examination, kung yung reason ba ay justifiable or not. Kung justifiable, i-extend po yun. Okay, depende po yun sa ibibigay ng judge. So ngayon, sir, papaano ngayon kung yung nakuha na mga smuggled goods, like for example, those things are kontrabando talaga. And yun talaga yung mga smuggled na bagay. So ano po ngayon yung mangyayari doon sa mga items? So yun po ay mag-fall under na the exclusionary rule. Pag sinabi po natin exclusionary rule, kung aware po kayo sa tinatawag natin na doctrine of the fruit of the poisonous tree. So ibig sabihin, kahit na yan po ipangunahing ebidensya na pwede nating ipanlaban doon sa mga offender, hindi pa rin po yan o hindi na po yan pwedeng gamitin pa doon sa korte laban sa kanila. Bakit? Yan po kasi ay under na ng exclusionary rule. It's either nakuha yung item illegally, hindi ka sumunod sa proper procedure, or it's either expired na yung search warrant natin. Once again, those items na will be considered as inadmissible. Next, number 3. What is the precise legal objective of conducting a preliminary investigation in the context of the Philippine criminal justice system? Okay, legal objective daw ng preliminary investigation. Is it to secure a guaranteed conviction beyond reasonable doubt before the actual trial? Or is it to determine whether there is a probable cause to hold the respondent for formal trial? Or is it to gather all physical evidence necessary for the compilation of the final report? Or is it to extract a complete voluntary extrajudicial confession from the primary suspect? Okay. So all of you again answered bravo, which is the correct answer. So under po ng Rule 112, Section 1 ng Rules of Court, doon po natin makikita ang definition ng preliminary investigation. So according po sa Rule 112 ng Section 1 of the Rules of Court, sabi doon that the preliminary investigation, so yan daw po ay statutory inquiry. At ang nagkakandak po niya ay sino? Si public prosecutor. At ang pinaka-purpose po niyan ay dalawa. Una, nagkakandak ng preliminary investigation para ma-ensure na yung offender natin or yung subject natin ay hindi po yan kumbaga maidadala sa public trial without basic justification. At pangalawa, pinoprotektahan po yung judiciary natin or yung our court para ma-overwhelm sa mga baseless claims. So, ibig sabihin, sa preliminary investigation pa lang, pag na-determine na ni prosecutor na there is no probable cause, hindi na po yan dadalhin sa korte. Ngayon, kung walang probable cause, matik, wala na. Hindi na po yan paabutin pa. Pero if there is a probable cause, yun, doon po ngayon magpe-prepare si prosecutor natin ang tinatawag na information. Kung saan nakalagay na po doon yung formal charges ng offender at ipapasa na po niya yan doon sa court. It's either yan po yung municipal or regional trial court. Okay, once again, ano po ang purpose? To determine whether there is a probable cause and si offender should be held for trial. So yun po ang preliminary. Yung alpha is not the correct answer. Sabi po diyan kasi to secure a guaranteed conviction. Alam naman po natin, kapag nag-establish tayo ng guilt beyond reasonable doubt, eh, kumbaga, yan po ay exclusive role ni judge. Kasi nga po, ang pinaka-role ni judge ay during the full criminal court trial. Charlie naman, to gather all physical evidence. So, again, that is not the answer. Yan po ay trabaho ng police. And then, extract a complete voluntary extrajudicial confession. Once again, yan po ay trabaho ng police under the custodial investigation. Next, number 4. Upon arriving at a reported bank robbery, the first responding officers immediately establish a perimeter, secure the ingress and egress points, and conduct a primary sweep for injured civilians and active threats. This tactical sequence exemplifies which specific investigative phase. Is it reactive? Is it follow-up? Is it initial? Or is it final? Ano po ang sagot natin? Okay. Pwede ko ba makita ulit? Okay, pinagsagot ng Alpha, ng Charlie. Sige, tanggalin natin yung follow-up, tanggalin natin yung final. Is it reactive or initial phase? Binanggit natin kanina. Is there a reactive phase in the conduct of criminal detection and investigation? Di ba wala naman? So definitely the answer for this is the initial phase. So tandaan po natin, under the standard operating procedure ng atin pong Philippine National Police, so sila po ang merong mandato o meron po silang mandato na kapag yung officer, ikaw na-unahan pong dumating doon sa crime scene, sila po yung nagtitrigger o nag-execute ng tinatawag natin na immediate triage sequence. At yung immediate triage sequence, yun po ay una, titignan muna kung secure ba yung place. Check ngayon yung mga entrance and exit points at magkakandak ka ngayon ng sabi dyan primary sweep. Kasi nga, you need to determine whether there is or there are injured civilians or kung meron pa bang mga active threats. Yun po ang tinatawag na triage sequence. At yung sequence nga po na yan, yan po ay pinaka-foundation ng initial phase natin. So ngayon, ang pinaka-primary rule po ng crime scene investigation, tandaan natin, once again, that is to protect the integrity of the scene, diba? Before anything is altered or moved. Kaya nga pag dumating si first responder doon sa crime scene, he or she needs to cordon the area in order to secure lahat ng pieces of evidence doon sa crime scene. Ngayon, if there are injured civilians or biktima, kailangan pong ma-ensure unang-una, of course, the safety or para malapatan ng first aid yung mga injured natin na biktima. Pero kailangan ma-make sure pa rin ni first responder na walang unnecessarily na ma-disrupt natin lahat ng physical traces. Like for example, if there are latent prints, but there are any pieces of evidence that can be altered or easily be tampered. Okay, and the final phase, so again po, ang final phase, so doon na po yung preparation ng mga reports. Okay, usually, naisasubmit po sa prosecutor. Next, number 5, as a criminal investigation transitions into phase, what is the definitive document prepared by the investigator to formally turn over the collected facts, evidence, and sworn statements to the prosecutorial authority? Parang may sagot na yata, walastik na yan. Hindi na itago yung sagot ah. Baka naman mamali pa kayo dyan. Pag namali pa kayo dyan, ewan ko na lang siguro. May nagsagot pa ng Delta eh. Kaya ka pa nung nagsagot ng Delta eh. Okay, so definitely the answer for this is final investigation report. So ngayon si police, magka-transition na po siya. Nandun siya sa may on-scene crime incident. Papunta na po siya sa judicial system na kung saan lahat po ng detective file, lahat po ng information must be compiled. At kapag po na-compile lahat ng information, Okay, yung ginawang investigation, so on and so forth, yun po yung tinatawag natin na final investigation report. At yan po ay tinatawag din or frequently referred as case referral. Okay, please take note ha, ang final investigation report, it is also known as case referral. Bakit? Kasi nga po, itong final investigation report ay yan po'y dinadala kay prosecutor. Okay? And then after this, so yung pinaka-document po, yung nilalaman niyan, para lang sa kaalaman natin, nandyan po yung profile ng suspect, nandyan po kung ano yung na-violate niya na statute, nandyan din po yung lahat ng itemized list ng physical evidence, and even the detailed chain of custody. At lahat po ng sworn witness affidavits, lahat po ay nakalagay dyan sa final investigation report. Kumbaga, tinuturing po yan as the master file. Once again, yan po yung ginagamit ni public prosecutor para ma-draft po niya yung tinatawag natin na information. Ano ang nilalaman ng information? The criminal charge or the formal charge. Kasi nga po, yun yung ipapasa naman o isasubmit naman ng prosecutor sa korte. Affidavit of desistance. Ang affidavit of desistance po, yan po ay pinafile usually the victim or the complainant when they are or when they no longer wish to pursue yung legal action or i-withdraw nila yung na-file nila na legal action. Then pag sinabi namang request for information, usually, then po ay just like an administrative inquiry, usually, yan po internal communication. So hindi po siya tumutukoy sa case referral. Then warrant of arrest return, actually, alam natin yan kapag hindi na-execute within the given time. So, nire-return yung warrant of arrest para makahingi ng panibago. And usually, ang warrant of arrest return din naman after naman na maaresto mo yung primary suspect na naka-include doon sa arrest warrant. Next, number 6. An investigator is attempting to extract granular details from a traumatized witness of a hit and run. Rather than asking direct questions, the investigator asks the witness to close their eyes and recount the smells, sounds, and ambient lighting of the street prior to the crash. Which specialized technique is being employed? Is it kinetic interviewing? Is it cognitive? Is it read method? Or is it behavioral analysis? Okay, so at least clear tayong lahat regarding sa technique na ginawa ni interviewer or an investigator. Tama po kayo, that is the cognitive interview technique. So ito po ay tandaan natin, so dinedevelop po to or dinevelop or ina-address o yan po yung ginagamit na technique sa mga witnesses that is hesitant or traumatized. Usually, ang pinaka tina-target dito is the mental context nung individual para ma-reconstruct niya or ma-reinstate yung pinaka nangyari doon sa crime scene. So walang series of questions sa investigator, he or she is just letting yung interviewee niya, okay, to narrate. Like for example, na-recount niya na or na-recall niya na lahat. So ngayon, the interviewer will just let, okay, yung interviewee natin to narrate. Kung ano ba yung nakita niya, ano yung naamoy niya, ano yung narinig niya during that time. Okay? So yung tawag po doon ay cognitive interview technique. Si kinetic, so usually yan po ay nagfo-focus sa body language or micro-expression. Makita naman natin, hindi naman yun yung ginamit na technique. Read method, yan po ay for interrogation. Actually, meron po yung 9-step and that is aggressive. Kasi kaya siya tinawag na aggressive technique since yan po ay to break down yung defensive, kumbaga pagiging defensive or pagiging deceptive ni suspect. And then the behavioral analysis question usually, so ito po ay merong sequence ng mga non-threatening question. Ang ini-establish kasi dito ay yung, kumbaga, yung baseline bago mag-start yung interrogation. So again, the answer is Bravo. Number 7, during an interrogation, an officer lowers his voice and sympathetically tells the suspect, I understand why you took the money. Anyone in your financial situation trying to feed a sick child would have done the same. Which psychological interrogation tactic is being applied? Is it use of strategic trick and lapse? Is it application of the saving face rule? Is it a good cop and bad cop? Or is it the direct yes or no questioning format? Okay, magugulat sa sagot ah. Ang sagot po dito ay, magaling ni Joe Marumabula. Bravo. That is the application of the saving phase rules. Okay, so dito po, ang saving phase rule po kasi yan po ay ah, tinatawag din sometimes as the rationalization or minimization. Okay, sa rationalization or minimization, so yan po ay isang uri ng psychological interrogation usually para ma-reduce yung moral barriers ni suspect to confess. And during custodial interrogation nga po kasi si suspect of course meron po yung mental friction. Usually takot, nahihiya, or 'di ba, natatakot for the legal penalties. Now, if you save face and you show sympathetic kumbaga face or sympathetically na-address mo yung feelings ng suspect and yung ginawa niya is a socially understandable reason, there are a big tendency na itong si suspect natin would confess, 'di ba? Habang na-maintain natin yung psychological dignity. Kasi tandaan natin mga kapatid, sa interrogation, meron po tayong sinusunod din po diyan na proper way. So hindi pa pwede na ma-violate natin yung individual. Kasi alam natin kapag ang isang confession na hindi mo nakuha yan voluntarily, hindi mo yan nakuha ng mismong si suspect ang nagsalita, 'di ba, willingly, yun po ay violation ng kanyang karapatan. Lalo na kung yan ay nakuha mo through coercion, tinakot mo, banilin lang mo, dinisit mo. So hindi po tatanggapin ng korte yan, okay, as a valid grounds for the conviction ng suspect. So that's the reason why gumagamit tayo ng techniques such as saving face in order na makuha natin or at least mailagay natin yung paa natin doon sa situation at maunawaan ng suspect na mayroong nakakaunawa sa kalagayan niya and definitely or eventually mag-lead siya sa confession. Next, number 8, a key witness to a syndicate-led trafficking corporation refuses to provide a sworn statement, citing fear that her picture and testimony will be plastered across local news, bringing shame to her conservative family. This reluctance is primarily categorized under which barrier to cooperation? Is it overwhelming fear of violent reprisal? Is it personal avoidance of public exposure? Is it strict administrative family restriction? Or is it complete sense of societal civic apathy? So as we can see naman sa senaryo, so kitang-kita naman natin kung ano yung pinapakita. So that is a personal avoidance of public exposure. So alam natin, so there are witness, talagang merong nakakaranas ng ganyan. Usually, that is influenced by the hiya or the social shame or takot siya for public judgment. So ngayon, kung ikaw as an investigator, kapag ka mag-a-assist ka ng isang witness, pero nagre-refuse siya to, like for example, to sign a formal statement, kasi nga natatakot siya na baka lumitaw yung mukha niya, lumitaw yung pangalan niya, kailangan po si investigator, ma-reassure niya si interviewee or si witness natin of the confidentiality rule. Or kung hindi man, makapagbigay ka ng mga appropriate solution. Like for example, hindi i-disclose yung location niya or pwede siyang i-undergo ng tinatawag natin na witness protection, security, and benefit under the RA 6981. So at least, kapag ka na-reassure mo si witness ng mga ganong bagay na merong confidentiality, hindi malalaman yung location mo, or pwede kang ma-coverage under the witness protection, security, and benefit, makapagbibigay siya or makapagpipirma siya doon sa kanyang formal statement at malaki po yung may tutulong nun with the conduct of the investigation. Next, number 9. During a custodial investigation, a suspect states, I was indeed at the warehouse that night and I saw the victim, but I was just looking for scrap metal. I didn't hurt him. In legal terms, how is this statement classified? Is it an explicit and total confession to the crime? Is it an absolute and unconditional admission of guilt? Is it an admission of fact but not a confession of guilt? Or is it an inadmissible form of second-hand hearsay data? Okay, so thank you for cooperating. So the answer for this is Charlie. Tama po kayo. That is an admission of fact but not confession of guilt. Please take note, under the Rule 130 ng Revised Rules on Evidence, okay? So malaki po ang distinction ng dalawa, ni admission at ni confession. Please take note. Si confession, yun po ay direct, yun po ay complete, at yun po ay unconditional acknowledgement of the guilt. Okay, I am the one who killed Pedro. Yun po ay confession. I am the one who stole the money. That is a confession. Pero nakita natin sa statement kanina, sabi niya, nandun ako sa warehouse, nakatingin lang ako dun sa mga bakal, pero wala naman akong sinaktan. That is just an admission. Bakit? In-acknowledge niya, meron siyang specific fact, merong specific event, merong specific circumstances na would probably connect doon sa suspect ng krimen. Okay? Pero, wala pong full criminal liability ang admission. Ang meron pong full criminal liability ay si confession. Okay? Kapag po kasi sinabi mo na yung ikaw, nandun lang yung presence mo at the crime scene, then nag-add ka pa ng mga statement or exculpatory statement na nandun ako pero ito lang tinitignan ko, wala akong kahit na anumang ginalaw, that is just an admission. Okay? So, once again, so alpha is not the answer. So, hindi po siya mag-undergo ng confession. Once again, pag sinabi kasi natin confession, yun po ay unconditional acknowledgement of guilt. Okay? Next, number 10. Prior to bringing fraud suspect into the interrogation room, the lead detective spent 2 hours reviewing the suspect's bank records, previous employment history, CCTV footage of the suspect's movements. This illustrates which fundamental quality of an effective interviewer. Is it conversational tone management technique? Is it strategic rapport building with subjects? Is it proper preparation before the interview? Or is it advanced behavioral deception detection? Anong sagot? Ayan na, laboy-laboy na tayo mga kapatid. May nagsagot ng Bravo, may nagsagot ng Charlie, may nagsagot ng Delta. Ano talaga ang tamang sagot? Mga kapatid, nakalagay dyan, no, prior daw, prior to bringing the fraud suspect. Wala pang ini-interview, mga kapatiran sa pananampalataya, ay nasagutan kayo ng sagutan kasi. Ay nakalagay, oh, prior to bringing the suspect, wala pang ini-interview. So, wag kang magsasagot ng alpha, wag kang magsasagot ng bravo. Kasi ang conversational tone of voice or tone management, real time. During ano po yan, live questioning. Strategic report building, ganun din po yan. Yan po ay real time. During na din po yan ng interrogation. Ito namang advanced behavioral deception detection, hindi naman po yan, kumbaga, yan po ay not a preparation. Pero once again, that is ginagamit for active conversation. Definitely, the answer, again, is Charlie. The proper preparation before the interview. So, sa interview po, or sa kinakadak na interrogation, of course, meron po tayong tinatawag na preparation. And it can be in the form ng interview and it can be in the form ng interrogation. Parehas po sila nag-undergo ng preparation phase. So bago po i-confronta yung subject, kausapin yung witness, kausapin yung biktima, bago kausapin yung suspect, di ba? Ang investigator po, so tinedetermine po muna niya lahat ng circumstances. Kasi po para ma-prevent sa investigator, mamaya ma-mislead siya sa mga alibay ni suspect, mapaniwala siya sa alibay. Kung meron siyang solid foundation or meron siyang solid knowledge regarding doon sa pinakakrimen, hindi siya basta-basta mayuugoy ng suspect or sa mga alibay. So that is the rationale behind. Kailangan mo, okay, na alamin muna yung whereabouts ng krimen, kanyang history, yung kanyang ginawa prior. Okay, bago mo siya interviewin. At yun nga ipapasok sa tinatawag natin golden rule of the interview. Diba, never allow someone to conduct an interview without prior visiting the crime scene. So that is very essential. Alam mo yung itatanong mo, at alam mo rin kung nagsisinungaling ba, pabalik yung sagot no tinatanong. Next, number 11. Person X intending to steal high valuable painting from a museum. Waits until closing time, casts the padlock on the back door using heavy bolt cutters, and successfully extracts the painting. Under the revised penal code, what specific crime was consummated? Is it qualified theft? Is it robbery with force upon things? Is it the offense of malicious mischief? The standard burglary under the law. Okay, very detailed yan ha. Nakita natin ha. Dinetalye na. Patingin nga ulit ng sagot. Patingin ako ng sagot. Okay, so all of you answered bravo, which is the correct answer. So under po ng revised penal code, so ang robbery po, so meron po tayong requirements diyan or mga requisites. Una, kailangan merong unlawful taking of personal property. Meron ba? Yes, meron. Property ng museum. Okay, meron bang intent to gain? Yes, merong intent to gain. Meron bang violence, intimidation against person? Walang person involved. Pero there is a force upon things. Tama, bakit? Bakit nasabi? Sinira yung padlock, sinira yung bintana, pinuwersang buksan yung pinto para makapasok. Yun po ay magsasatisfy the element or for the element of force upon things. Okay? Kaya makikita natin yung ginawang pagnanakaw, nag-elevate siya from simple theft to robbery. Kasi nga po, merong greater degree ng criminal intent. At the same time, meron ding social danger na dinemonstrate itong si offender natin. Qualified theft. So, makita natin, so hindi po siya papasok ng qualified theft. Charlie, malicious mischief. So, hindi lang naman damage alone ang ginawa. So, meron siyang tinangay na gamit. There is an intent to gain. And burglar. So, sa atin pong concept ng Philippine Revised Penal Code, wala po tayong kumbaga explicit na rule regarding sa burglary. Pero sa US, burglary po ang tawag sa robbery. Next. Number 12. A pawn shop owner purchases a collection of gold jewelry at a price remarkably lower than market value. The seller lacked receipts and exhibited nervous behavior. Even without direct knowledge of the original theft, the pawn shop owner can be held liable for fencing because Alpha, he failed to actively detain the suspicious seller for immediate investigation. Bravo, he should have known that the items were derived from robbery or theft. Charlie violated rules strictly prohibiting pawn shops from buying uncertified gold. Or he is automatically classified as a conspirator to the crime of theft. Anong sagot? Okay. May nagsagot ng Alpha, may nagsagot ng Bravo. Pero at least malinaw sa atin ng crime of fencing mga kapatid ah. Okay, that is Bravo. Ang crime of fencing po, it can be found at the PD 1612 or the Presidential Decree number 1612, 1612 or tinatawag po yung the Anti-Fencing Law na kung saan ang disenyo po ng batas madismantle yung pagbebenta ng mga stolen property. Diba? Ma-secure yung conviction and at the same time, tandaan natin, the prosecution, hindi na po kailangan pruweba pa na yung buyer ay meron siyang direct knowledge, meron siyang first-hand knowledge doon sa pinaka-original theft. Maliwanag na maliwanag dito sa batas, kung meron ng mga red flag, ano ba yung mga red flag na binanggit? Sobrang baba, walang resibo, kinakabahan pa yung tao, pero anong ginawa mo? Binili mo pa rin. Okay? Kapag po ganyan, so meron ng tinatawag tayo dyan na constructive knowledge. Hindi na direct knowledge yan. That is constructive knowledge. Diba? And those are circumstances na would lead to a reasonable, prudent person na magkaroon ka ng conclusion na ba, itong binebenta sa akin, might be stolen item. Na kung saan, kapag binili ko to, pwede akong maging liable under the law. Okay, once again, sa crime of fencing, it can be through direct, alam mo, And meron ding constructive knowledge o yung mga red flag na tinatawag. Kapag po ganyan, binentahan ka ng bagay na mababa, diba? Rather than the market value. So there is a question. That is questionable. Okay? Then wala pang maipakitang mga lehitimong resibo or kung ano mang pagkakakilanlan ng bagay na yon, that is a question mark. Alpha is not the answer. So wala pong karapatan ng citizen na magkaroon ng detention ng individual kasi meron lang suspicious na transaction. Charlie is also not the answer. So hindi naman po agad fencing kung sakaling hindi ka nakapag-secure ng permits mo. And of course, Delta, hindi rin po yan answer. So ang fencer po, yan po ay tinatawag na principal. Wala na pong tinatawag na co-conspirator dyan. So kapag po ikaw ay pumili ng nakaw, ikaw na po agad ang principal for the crime of fencing. Next, number 13, under the revised penal code, the person who habitually engages in sexual intercourse or lascivious conduct for money or profit to support their daily needs is technically committing the crime of vagrancy, qualified trafficking, crime of prostitution, or acts of lasciviousness. So ito, very ano na, very obvious na yung sagot. So ito po ay under the trafficking in person na ginagawa ng mga means and methods kung paano makukumit ang trafficking in person. So definitely that is the crime of prostitution. So yun po yung makikita natin under the Article 202 ng Revised Penal Code na kung saan ang prostitution, meron po siyang specific elements. Una, nakikipag-engage sa sexual intercourse. Ano pa? So merong mga malalaswang mga conduct and that is habitually. And ginagamit po yung kanyang katawan at yung pag-sexual intercourse para sa pera. Okay? And at the same time, ang vagrancy po kasi, so kaya siya hindi naging sagot, ang vagrancy po kasi po ay kumbaga palaboy kung saan bawal yung palaboy-laboy sa lansangan. Wala naman pong binanggit diyan na gano'n ang kaso. So kung ang vagrancy, yun po makikita natin under the RA 10158 and Bravo qualified trafficking. Actually, ang elements po niyan, walang consent, 'di ba? Merong recruitment, merong transport, merong organize or exploitation ng mga sindikato. So that is the qualified trafficking. Pero involved po diyan ang prostitution, Pagdating doon nung ni-recruit, pagdating sa ibang bansa, wala naman palang lehitimong trabaho doon, in-engage sa prostitution. Kumbaga yun yung mga purpose kung bakit nire-recruit. And Delta acts of lasciviousness, so that is, makita natin that is the habitual uh, engaging doon sa ibang tao ng malalaswa in order to sustain someone's living. Or, as acts of lasciviousness, kapag meron kang ginawang hindi maganda or malaswa sa isang tao. Next, 14, which of the following legal definitions accurately describes pornography in the context of criminal law? The consensual distribution of highly intimate digital images between adults, or is it the representation of a person engaged in explicit sexual activities for sex, or is it any artistic or classical depiction of human bodies without regular clothes, or is it the act of soliciting commercial sexual favors using multiple online sites? Context daw ng criminal law, Sa atin sa criminal law, o kaya ang context po niyan, so ang pornography yan po ay ah, kumbaga obscene na material o representation ng mga sexual acts, primarily para meron kang na makuha ng mga interest. And under the legal standards natin, actually it is adapted din sa international cases. Okay, kapag ka tawag dito, kapag ka ang isang individual ay binidyohan, okay, nakipag-engage sa sexual activities, ang tawag po diyan ay pornography. Okay? It can be a materials or distribution ng material that could offend the public decency. So kaya nga po pinagbabawal yung mga explicit na materials or binaban in some countries. Alpha is not the answer kasi kung pag-share ka lang naman ng images between adults, hindi po yan magko-constitutes ng pornography kasi yan ay private. Magpalitan kayo ng magpalitan ng mga litrato nyo, bahala kayo sa buhay nyo. Pero hindi po yun pornography. Charlie, so hindi rin po yan sagot. So kasi sabi diyan, just an artistic. Usually, merong mga sa fine arts lalo na makikita natin, talagang merong makikita ka na hubot-hubad. Pero that is in a form of art. Ano pa, yung mga medical text or human anatomy. Usually, yun po ay talagang walang mga suot. Pero hindi po yung magko-constitutes sa pornography. Ang delta, so usually, yun na po yung tinatawag nating cyber prostitution. So, doon ka na po nagpapakita ng malalaswang conduct, okay, for solicitation. Next, number 15, in a criminal trial, what is the evidentiary weight of an extrajudicial confession obtained from a suspect through the use of psychological coercion or physical torture, even if the confession accurately led police to the murder weapon? It is fully admissible to the independent discovery exception, or it is conditionally admissible subject to immediate judicial review, or it is completely inadmissible due to constitutional rights violation, or it is admissible strictly to prove the precise location of physical items. Makikita natin na-obtain doon sa suspect through the use ng psychological coercion and physical torture. Kumbaga yung confession, kaya siya nagsalita, nahihirapan eh. Binugbog mo, tinadyakan mo, di ba? Pinaso mo ng kandila, inipit mo ng plahis yung kuko. Eh sino ba namang hindi magsasalita nun? Okay, kapag po ganyan ang nangyari, tandaan natin, that is completely inadmissible. Bakit? There is a violation ng constitutional rights. Please take note, under Article 3, Section 12, ulitin ko, under Article 3, Section 12, okay? At ano pa? With the RA 9745, Article 3, Section 12, with RA 9745, yan po ay mga batas to absolutely bar against admission secured, okay, or confession secured through the use ng physical or psychological coercion. At under po yan, once again, ang tinatawag po natin na exclusionary rule or under the doctrine of the fruit of the poisonous tree. Makita natin, the root source, yung confession, paano siya nakuha? By torture. At lahat po ng ebidensya, okay, na makukuha, okay, doon sa suspect na yan, through the use ng coercion or physical torture, is considered inadmissible. Kaya hindi po yung tatanggapin ng korte natin. Tandaan natin, ang atin pong batas, yan po ay, kumbaga, makatao. And usually, kahit na po yan ay offender, meron pong karapatan ng offender. Under the RA 74-30, meron pong karapatan yan, kung yan man ay arrested, detained, or under the custody ng police. So, they have a lot of rights. Next. Number 16, under 9208, human trafficking is deemed consummated offense the moment which of the following occurs. So, alin daw dito pag sinabing consummated human trafficking? Is it when the victim finally subjected to actual exploitation or force? Is it when the recruiter receives the full financial payment from the sender? Is it when the act of recruitment or transport is completed via illegal means? Or is it when the physical body of the victim crosses an international border point? What is your answer? Alpha ba? Bravo, Charlie, or Delta? Okay, may nagsagot ng Alpha, may nagsagot ng Charlie. Tignan natin yung Alpha. Sabi ito, when the victim is finally subjected to actual exploitation or force or labor. Okay, yan po ay incorrect. Okay? Kasi po, hindi na po kailangan na maipadala pa ng ano yan, maipadala pa ng ibang bansa, tsaka siya na-exploit para lang masabing consummated. Okay, the mere act of recruitment, the mere act of transporting ng individual na yan, that is a consummated trafficking or human trafficking. Okay, tandaan natin, kapag po na buo yung tatlong elements, una, act. Ano ba yung act? There is a recruitment, there is a transport, there is a harboring. Pangalawa, means. Ano yung means? Tinakot mo ba yan? Niloko mo ba yan? Pinuwersa mo ba yan? At pangatlo, purpose. Ano ang purpose? To exploit. Dalhin sa ibang bansa, doon i-exploit. Kapalit ng pera na binibigay sa'yo nung pinagdalhan mo doon. Kapag po nabuo yun, that is consummated. Okay? Pero dito, makikita natin, the mere act of recruitment or transport ay consummated na. Hindi na po yan kailangan na may padala pa doon sa trafficker natin or yung pinaka pagdadala natin ng individual. Okay, ulitin natin. That is consummated na. Next. 17. A local syndicate consisting 5 members coordinates the recruitment and transport of victims from the province to Manila for forced labor. Under the law which YSD is considered qualified trafficking person. Bakit daw kaya na-considered yan? Is it because it involves transportation across regional provincial boundaries? Is it because the crime is committed by an organized group of 3 or more? Is it because forced labor operations rather yield higher overall economic returns? Or is it because the victims were subjected to extreme elements of raw violence? Ayaw na. Nadali na naman ang sagot mga kapatid. Tama kayo, that is bravo. Bakit siya tinawag na qualified trafficking in person? Kasi po ito po ay committed by the syndicate or organized group. Sir, paano masabi pag ang isang trafficking in person ay qualified when it is operated by the organized syndicate? Ilan po ang bilang? 3 or more. Sir, paano naman pag sinabing large-scale syndicates o large-scale na trafficking in person? Pag large-scale naman, ang biktima natin ay 3 or more. Pag sinabi naman natin na syndicated trafficking in person, ang nag-commit ay 3 or more. Huwag natin kakalimutan yan. Next. Number 18, a landlord notices that an apartment he leases is constantly locked with multiple young women being escorted in and out late at night by armed men. He suspects it as holding house for traffic victims but decides to ignore it because the rent is paid double. What is his criminal liability? Meron kayang liability si landlord. He bears no legal liability since he did not recruit or transport the victims. He is liable exclusively for civil negligence and administrative penalties. He is criminally liable for knowingly permitting his premises to be utilized, or delta, he is only liable if physically participated in the actual exploitation. Okay, maraming salamat for answering. The answer po dito ay Charlie. Siya po ay criminally liable under sec. Okay, ang tinatarget po niya na yung mga supporter ng atin pong mga trafficker. Okay na kung saan, yung mga building owners, building landlords, diba, the property managers, hindi nila pa pwedeng i-ignore lahat ng criminal activity na pa pwedeng mag-occur doon sa properties nila. Ngayon, kung ikaw landlord ka at meron kang constructive at meron kang direct knowledge na yung pinapaupahan mo, okay, holding cell, safe house, okay, ano pa, transit center ng mga traffic operation, at ikaw, binibigyan mo ng permiso yun, kahit na ikaw ay, kumbaga, kapalit ng dobleng halaga ng bayad, ikaw po ay criminally liable as ano, as accomplice, under po yan ng batas ng, batas natin na RA 9208. Once again, ikaw po ay criminally liable kahit hindi po ikaw directly nakipag-participate sa exploitation. Okay? From the moment na ikaw ay nagbigay ng permiso doon, kahit ikaw ay mayroong constructive knowledge, lamang, ikaw po ay accomplice with the 9208. Kung na-violate mo ang RA 9208, the Trafficking in Persons Act. Next, number 19. A suspect initiates the overt acts of recruiting a victim using deceptive promises of employment but is arrested by undercover operatives for the recruitment process. Can be completed or the victim transported. This scenario constitutes consummated trafficking, attempted trafficking, promotion of trafficking, illegal human detention. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. May nagsagot ng Alpha at saka ng Bravo. Mga kapatid sa pananampalataya, kung titignan niyo yung nasa senaryo, nakalagay diyan, no, before the recruitment process. May na-recruit na ba? May na-recruit na before the recruitment process. So, or na makumpleto, no, nakalagay before the recruitment process can be completed or before na may transport mo yung biktima. Kapag po ganyan ang ang kaso, ang tawag po diyan ay attempted trafficking. So there is an attempt, yes. 'Di ba nagkaroon siya ng initiation or execution. Meron ba siyang direct overt acts? Meron. Okay? So ngayon, ano ang nangyari? Hindi niya nakumpleto lahat ng statutory elements. Meron siyang meron siyang means, meron siyang methods. Okay? Ngayon ang nangyari, bago niya ma-complete yung recruitment process, there is an what do you call this? Merong external interruption. At sino yung external interruption? Si undercover operative or kung ano mang police operation yan. Okay, rather than ikaw mismo nag-voluntary ka na hindi mo na gustong gawin yung isang bagay. Okay, kapag ka merong external interruption external interruption, yan po ay attempted. Bakit? Hindi na kumpleto yung desired statutory elements, merong police operation, nakupot ka, or na-determine yung trabaho mo, ang tawag po dyan ay attempted trafficking. Ulitin natin, yung recruitment phase, di ba? Actively initiated by, yes, pero nagkaroon ng na-cut short, okay, bago yung biktima natin ay may move, may exploit, or madala doon sa isang location. So that is the what we so-called attempted trafficking. Next. Number 20, a 16-year-old ran away, signs an authorized contract agreeing to work in an exploitative nightclub setting, claiming she fully understands the nature of the job. In trafficking prosecution, how does the defense of victim's consent apply? Served as mitigating circumstances, mababawasan the penalty. It successfully downgrades, okay, the charge from trafficking to a labor case. Is it entirely invalid because minors lack legal capacity to consent? Or is it completely absolves the recruiter of any formal criminal liability? Anong sagot? Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. Uy, walang magsasagot ng Delta dyan. Ba't may nagsasagot ng Delta? Walang magsasagot ng Delta. Wala rin magsasagot ng Alpha. Hindi po yan mitigating circumstances. Oh, tama. Ang sagot natin dyan ay Charlie. Invalid yun. Bakit? Minor yan. Kahit na naunawaan niya yan, minor pa rin po yan. Wala siyang legal capacity na magbigay ng consent. Tandaan natin under the RA 9208 na kung saan merong amendment under the RA 10364 and the RA 11862, meron po tayong the defense of victim consent. Okay, na kung saan kapag ang victim ay minor, pag sinabi nating minor, that is a person under 18 years old. Okay, at yung batas natin nag-establish siya na yung children completely wala po yang legal, wala po yang psychological, at wala po yang cognitive capacity na magbigay ng consent on their own. Lalong-lalo na kung yan ay tumutukoy sa labor o tumutukoy po yan sa sexual exploitation. Kaya lahat po ng contract, lahat ng waiver, lahat ng notarized agreement na pinirmahan ng minor, yan po ay nullity. Pag sinabi natin nullity, invalid. Okay? Tandaan natin, kapag merong ganyan agreement, okay, can be used, okay, by the prosecution para ma-identify or as an evidence doon sa mga trafficker natin para mas ma-prosecute sila and ma-criminally held liable sila sa batas natin. Kasi nga po, papasok po yan as a means na merong deception or manipulation kasi bata yung pumirma. Next, number 21. A drug cartel purchases a struggling car wash business and begins secretly mixing cash from illegal drug sales with the legitimate daily revenue of the car wash. Once this money is legally deposited in the banking system as business income, what specific stage of money laundering has been achieved? Kita nyo, nagkaroon na ng mixing ng kasyo, illegal drugs, tapos naging legitimate revenue na ng car wash. Laboy-laboy ang sagot. Sige, may nag-Bravo, may nag-Charlie, may nag-Delta. Sabi dito, once this money is legally deposited into the banking system as business income, sa napapasok po yan na stage? Nako, lalo nang nalito. Legal nga o legally deposited. Business income. Nako. Siyempre, ano pang gagawin nyo? Nasagot nyo na lahat. O, pindutin nyo yung wow. Baka hindi nyo pa napipindot yung wow. Pipindutin ko. Kayo talaga. Ang sagot dito, kasi kung i-analyze ninyo, una, binanggit. Merong car wash, nag-struggle. Ngayon, nagmi-mix na sila doon. From illegal drug sale with the legitimate daily revenue of the car wash. Ngayon, ang ginawa nila na yon, that is, tinatawag nating layering. Minimix natin yung illegal na pera, okay, doon sa legitimate means. Pero, kapag ang dineposit mo illegal na, at yun na mismong kita nung legal mong business, ang tawag po dyan ay integration, mga kapatiran. Integration na po yan. Okay? Yan po yung makikita natin, RA 9160 o the Anti-Money Laundering Act. Meron po yung chronological steps or sequence or stages para malinis yung mga maruruming pera. Una, placement. Pangalawa, layering. At pangatlo, integration. Okay, at yung integration nga, that is the final phase. Ba after na yung pera pumasok sa banking system, tawag doon placement. 'Di ba? Bakit mo ipinasok yan sa banking system? Para actually that is the most difficult, yung pagpasok ng pera sa banking system. Now, kapag in-undergo mo yan ng mga different complex transferring, smurfing na tinatawag, 'di ba? Pinapalit mo yung pera, transfer mo sa ibang bangko, transfer mo sa ibang bangko, ang tawag po dyan ay layering para ma-obscure yung origin ng pera. Ngayon, kapag po na-funnel mo na into legitimate front companies, high-end real estate, or luxury assets, ang tawag po dyan ay layering. Pero kapag ang ginawa mo, ibinenta mo ngayon yung real estate mo, kumikita na yung company mo, at yung pera mo ay mag-a-appear na as business revenue, at ngayon, dinala mo na yan sa bangko as a legitimate business income or revenue, ang tawag na po dyan ay integration. Okay, so that is the final step of the money laundering. Okay, structuring. So yun po also known as layering. Actually, yan po yung mga illegal transaction na in different accounts in order to mislead yung mga investigator or walang mag-raise na suspicion. Next, 22. A client deposits 490,000 pesos in cash at a bank branch in the morning and another 20,000 pesos in the afternoon at a different branch of the same bank. This deliberate tactic to evade the 500,000 pesos covered transaction reporting threshold is legally termed as, is it illicit practice of smurfing? Is it complex process of layering? Is it tactical act of structuring? Or is it the crime of corporate embezzlement? Huwag nyo napansinin yung delta. Alpha, Bravo, or Charlie. Is it smurfing? May nakita ba kayo smurfing dyan? Yung there are multiple accounts. Complex process of layering ba yan? Or that is a tactical act of structuring? Naglaboy-laboy na po sila mga kapatid. Pinadala ba sa iba't ibang account? O same client, same account, pero different branch? Wala pong sasagot ng alpha kasi ang smurfing, wala naman tayo nakita ditong multiple accounts. Kasi meron dito nakalagay client o nag-deposit siya na umaga. Sa ulit yung nag-deposit ng hapon, walang multiple accounts. Bravo, Charlie. Sagot. Ang sagot po dyan mga kapatid ay Charlie. That is the tactical act of structuring. Okay, sa anti-money laundering po, so meron po tayong tinatawag na covert transaction reports. Ang covert transaction reports, yan po ay a report coming from the banking institution na kailangan nilang mag-file kapag ka ang pera ng tao, okay, ay nag-exceed ng 500,000 within a single banking day. Kapag nag-exceed po ng 500,000 within single banking day, itong banking institution, BDO man yan, BPI, China Bank, ay meron pong, kumbaga, they are, tawag dito na nga, pinipili sila or meron silang duty, okay, to report doon sa AMLAC or the Anti-Money Laundering Council. At ito nga po yung tinatawag na covert transaction report. Kaya ngayon, para ma-bypass yung surveillance, ano yung ginawa ng kriminal? Nag-i-structurize or nag-i-structuring. Okay? Na kung saan, yung large sum of money, eh, ah, kumbaga, hinahati sa dalawa or hinahati sa kung ilan man, para ngayon kung sakali, yung covert transaction reports, eh, hindi sila mapansin doon. Kaso ang problema, hindi nga papasok sa covert transaction report, saan naman papasok? Sa suspicious transaction. Babiruin mo 490, halatado ka masyado. Para hindi ka ma-threshold ng 500,000, matakbuhan mo yun, hinapon mo yung 20 mil. Eh, that is a suspicious transaction. Kaya bukod sa covert transaction report, kung sakali man, 490, tapos nung hapon 20. O nga naman, yung isang transaction, walang problema doon. Yung pangalawang transaction, walang problema. Pero, mag-undergo pa rin po yan ng suspicious transaction. Okay, kasi yan po yung red flag. Kasi halatado ka masyado na meron kang technique to evade yung threshold na sinet ng Anti-Money Laundering Council. Next. Number 23, a minimum wage earner suddenly receives a wire transfer of 2 million from an offshore account. Although the amount exceeds the covert transaction threshold, it must also be specifically flagged as suspicious transaction because the transfer originated from a high-risk foreign currency account. The amount does not match the financial capacity of profile of the client. All wire transfer exceeding a million are suspicious by default. For Delta, the client completely failed to provide a valid tax identification card. Laboy talaga sagot nyo dyan. Bravo, Charlie. Yun lang yan. Makikita natin at kung iano natin, kung i-analyze natin mabuti, hindi ka sasagot ng Charlie. Bakit? Alam na natin, may threshold. Ilan ang threshold? 500,000. Tama? 500,000 yun eh. Nakalagay doon, no? Balik ko ah. And to obey the 500 cover transaction reporting threshold. All wire transferred exceeding a million pesos are suspicious by default. Default ba? Yung default natin. Ang default natin ay 500,000 pesos or exceeding 500,000 pesos. Definitely, the answer for this ay bravo. The amount does not match the financial capacity or profile of the client. Eh kapag po ganyan ang kaso, okay, itong si client eh, kumbaga minimum eh, paano mo pag sinabing minimum wage earner? Approximately, hindi abot siguro ng sa isang buwan, abot ng 20,000, so something like that. Pasensya na kayo kung di ko alam yung exact. So that is the minimum wage earner. So ngayon, bigla ka na lang nagkaroon ng 2 milyon doon sa bangko mo. Eh, that is a suspicious transaction. Ngayon, ikaw, as a financial institution, ikaw ay bangko ka, kailangan mo mag-utilize ng Know Your Customer or tinatawag na KYC or Know Your Customer. Kung saan yan po isang protocol and yan po ay baseline ng mga economic profile ng lahat ng customer. Okay? Ngayon, kung sakali na yung transaction mo, hindi talaga nag-align doon sa mga past patterns mo, kung ilan yung, kaya nga nakalagay doon, di ba, kapag mag-open kayo ng account, tinatanong kung ilan yung kinikita nyo sa isang buwan, or ilan yung kinikita nyo annually. Usually yun, as part of the Know Your Customer protocol. In order na merong kumbaga magkaroon ng alert o ma-flag down, may report yung mga bagay na hindi akma o related doon sa binigay mong identification mo. Ngayon, yung transaction na yan makakategorize sa suspicious. Kasi wala kang kahit na anumang economic justification para magkaroon ka ng 2 milyon dun sa bangko mo. And that is a suspicious transaction. Next, number 24. Upon receiving report, a highly suspicious multi-million peso transaction linked to a known criminal syndicate, what immediate legal action can the Anti-Money Laundering Council pursue to prevent the funds from being moved? Mag-issue ka ba agad ng warrant of arrest? Mag-file ka daw ng petition for a freeze order on the account or confiscate mo agad yung funds directly and transfer them to the state or unilaterally shut down the operations of the banking branch. Okay? So, at least malinaw po sa atin yan. So, this is the correct answer. File a formal petition for a freeze order on the account. Okay? So, ngayon po si AMLAC, so siya po yung pwede mag-file ng petition at for a freeze order. Ngayon, saan siya ipina-file? Please take note. Pina-file po ang petition for a freeze order directly sa Court of Appeals. Ulitin ko, si AMLAC, pina-file po ang petition for a freeze order sa Court of Appeals. Okay? And at the same time, ito pong freeze order na yan po ay ex parte. Sir, paano po pag sinabi ex parte? Pag sinabi ex parte, i-file ni Anti-Money Laundering Council sa Court of Appeal yung freezing order. Ex parte yan na kahit na hindi mo na i-notify yung owner nung account na yon beforehand, pwede mo pa rin i-file. Kahit hindi mo nasasabihan na mapiprease yung assets niya, hindi siya makapag-withdraw, hindi siya makapag-deposit, walang problema kasi ex parte po yan. Again, pag sinabi natin ex parte, pwedeng i-process yung petition for the freeze order of the account sa Court of Appeals kahit na hindi mo ma-notify yung owner ng account na yon mismo. Next, number 25. During a trial, the defense argues that the accused cannot be convicted of money laundering because the underlying crime of human trafficking or the source of the funds has not yet resulted in final court conviction. Is this defense legally valid? Yes, money laundering is considered an accessory crime to the predicate act. Yes, the predicate crime must be fully resolved with a clear conviction. First, Charlie, no, money laundering is separate and distinct crime with unique elements. And Delta, no, human trafficking is not officially recognized as predicate offense. Is it Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta? So meron po tayong tinatawag mga kapatid na substantive independence. So marahil ay hindi pa kayo aware dito. No? Pero the correct answer for this one ay Charlie. Makinig kayo sa akin. Under the Section 6, okay, ulitin ko, under Section 6 ng RA 9160, ang money laundering po, yan po yung kinaklassified as standalone. Okay, meron po siyang tinatawag na substantive independence. Sir, paano po yung substantive independence? Okay, kung yan po ay completely na na-decouple, okay, from the prosecution, like for example, merong underlying na krimen, so in this case, merong human trafficking, kung saan yun yung pinaka-source ng fund nila. Kahit na po yung human trafficking na yan, eh, hindi po masecure yung final or hindi magkaroon ng conviction, okay, pwede na pong i-file or mag-undergo na po ng prosecution ng money laundering. Okay? At ang prosecution, ang kailangan nilang establish lang kung ano may mga different circumstantial o direct financial evidence, mag-i-start na po yung trial ng money laundering. Hindi na po kailangan na tapusin pa yung human trafficking. Okay? Kahit ongoing ang human trafficking, pwede pong mag-trial ng money laundering cases. Kasi nga po, meron tayong tinatawag na substantive independence. Para yung mga money laundering cases ay hindi na po magkaroon pa ng delay. Okay? Yun po yun. So, I guess that's the end and that's the last question regarding po sa CRA 176.